Hey, it's Conrad Thompson, and you're listening to Grilling JR with the voice of professional wrestling, Mr. Jim Ross. And today we're going to be talking about a series of matches that I can't wait to discuss. It's No Way Out 2001. This went down back on February 25th, 2001. And I know what you're thinking to yourself. You're probably thinking to yourself, is this the pay-per-view right before the greatest WrestleMania of all time? It absolutely is. In the main event, we've got The Rock challenging Kurt Angle for the world title. Yeah, did you even remember that? The Rock won the belt the prior month to WrestleMania before he defended it against Stone Cold Steve Austin. So you're going to get to see The Rock and Kurt Angle hook it up for about 17 minutes. We're also going to talk about the Dudley Boyz and the Brothers of Destruction and Edge and Christian. Think about that. A three-way tables match for the tag team titles. Tables match, that's going to favor the Dudley Boyz. But Kane and The Undertaker, this is kind of a wild card with the American Badass. And Edge and Christian. I think usually when we see the Dudleys and we see Edge and Christian, we're thinking the Hardys. But how about Kane and The Undertaker instead? How about a singles match with Steven Richards and Jerry Lawler? We're also going to see Stephanie McMahon Helmsley and Trish Stratus. Chris Jericho is going to be in a fatal four-way. And check out the rest of this field. Chris Benoit, Eddie Guerrero, and X-Pac. That's got to be one of the best four-way dances in the history of the Intercontinental title. We've also got a hardcore match with Big Show and Raven. I know it's silly, but it's fun. I absolutely loved Big Show in these hardcore matches. But the match that everyone remembers is a 3 stages of hell match with Triple H and Stone Cold Steve Austin. They have a singles match, then they have a street fight, and they close it out with a steel cage match. You get 3 separate matches within a single match. They went nearly 40 minutes. And somehow, the month before the main event of WrestleMania 17, Triple H beat Stone Cold. I don't know that we talk about that often enough. We're going to talk about it today. We're also going to talk about the things that were happening behind the scenes. As you'll recall, everything, and I mean everything, is happening around this time. You've got the company going public. You've got ECW going under. You've got WCW negotiating a sale to be sold to the WWF. And did we mention the XFL? There's a lot of moving parts. I don't know how Vince survived it. I don't know how he didn't take his eye off the ball, but we know that this incredible run that the WWF has been on that ultimately led to the demise of ECW and WCW, it's all going to change about a month later when Stone Cold Steve Austin turns heel in the main event of WrestleMania 17. So this may have been the best of times and the worst of times if you were the WWE. We're going to talk about it, the good, the bad, and the ugly, as we break down No Way Out 2001, a forgotten pay-per-view that is truly underrated, but maybe just lost to history. It was at the Thomas Mack Center, the same building where we once heard CM Punk have a pipe bomb promo years later. I can't wait to talk about it. Here we go. It's Jim Ross and I discussing No Way Out 2001, live from Las Vegas. Hey, it's Conrad Thompson, and you're listening to Grilling JR with the voice of wrestling, Mr. Jim Ross. Jim, how are you, man?
I'm good, Conrad, because I'm not in Oklahoma where the weather is still lousy. And, man, what a cold front, huh? But there's no global warming. There's a global warning. That's what there is. So everything's good. How are you doing?
Man, I'm better than I deserve, and I guess we need to give a little global warning right now. You're going to be live tonight on adfreeshows.com, taking fans' questions, doing a little interactive.
Right.
And I know all the top guys and gals over at adfreeshows.com are looking forward to that. But tomorrow, you're going to be doing the virtual signing. I think this one is the one I've seen all over advertised, right?
Yeah, it's with High Spots. And I'm I'm trying to get to there it is. Son of a bitch. See ya, boy, just say done. Just go someplace else. Click. There it is. It's Friday night, February 26th, 7:00 Eastern. It's going to be streaming live at facebook.com/highspots. So you get all your information there. But it's this Friday night, February 26th, virtual signing. I'm going to have some books on hand and just should be a fun, lighthearted deal. But it'll be live, so nothing can go wrong, as Vince would say. Friday, Feb 26th, 7 o'clock East. Hope you guys join me. And I'll be signing stuff and personalizing autographs and things of that nature. So I look forward to it. I'm trying to think if I've ever done one of those before. I can't recall. Maybe just my lack of memory. I don't think I ever have. And the other thing for tonight, for ad-free shows, I've done a couple of those. Those are a blast. There's a lot of fun, and they get good questions. I said this, I think maybe last week, that I thought that our audience was as educated and as in tune as any audience that I've ever interacted with. We just had some really smart fans that study the game. And that's what we talked about last week. I think we talked about the Jimmy Crockett interview.
Right.
Students of the game and historians are going to love this, because I'm hard to please sometimes. I really am. I'm cranky and crotchety and all that other good shit. But the thing about it that's really a classic piece of journalism. And it's you ask great questions, and Jimmy gave great answers, and he understood the game. He was succinct. It allowed you to get a lot more questions in by the answers being better, shorter, succinct, hints. So a lot of good things going on, man. I hope the fans could, if you're someplace where the weather is bad or not friendly, we got you covered. You got to go check it out. Adfreeshows.com. Of course, tonight, JR will be doing his meet and greet, but of course, he's been talking all about the new Jim Crockett interview. Part 1, part 2 still to come here in a few weeks. But don't forget, tomorrow, JR doesn't do a lot of these, a virtual signing over at High Spots. They've been doing a great job bringing in a bunch of huge names. They had Stan Hansen, they had Terry Funk. Now the main event is here. Oh, damn it.
Ross, the voice of wrestling. Facebook.com/High Spots is where you can join in on all the fun. It's tomorrow night at 7 Eastern, 6 Central. Lots of photos, and I'm sure there'll probably be some action figures. There will be books. But
there won't be any AEW action figures because mine hasn't come out yet. That's a subtle dig.
Maybe you and Britt Baker and Tony Schiavone are all coming at the same time.
Well, and then while some people have already had 2 or 3.
Well, I think Cody, there's been 4 series so far. Cody's had 5 figures. So,
yeah. Well, I guess I should have taken that EVP title. Kidding. Ross says he's angry at action figures. Should have taken the EVP title. First of all, it's never offered, nor would I have accepted. So anyhow, but that's going to be fun. It's a fun weekend. See, for me, I really look forward to times like tonight with all our ad-free people. Tomorrow night's a brand new venture. I don't have any idea how it's going to go. But I'm excited about participating and talking to fans. And, I'm really a big believer in market research. And the best market research is to interact and discuss and talk with the people that consume your product. Yeah. So it's pretty simple. You don't need a focus group. I just need to listen to what you're saying. So anyhow, it should be a fun weekend. And, then I may have a couple of recruits dropping by. It'll take supporting time. Things like that. Living a life, Conrad. I love that you're getting comfortable. That's the first time that line on the air. You and I have been tickled for a long. All right, let's move on. No Way Out 2001 is our topic today. It took place on February 25th from the Thomas Mack Center in Las Vegas, Nevada. This is actually only the second pay-per-view that the company has put on from Las Vegas. The first, of course, being your debut show, WrestleMania 9. So I guess we can say at this point, you've covered every WWF show in Vegas. Every one of them. Every 2 of them. Yeah. And the WrestleMania 9 kind of was the big daddy for me, of course. But Las Vegas I've talked about this before, that when you're in a company that does the pay-per-view in the Pacific time zone, it changes the dynamic. Because number one, your day starts much earlier because you're still going to go on the air at 7 o'clock Eastern time, which is 4 o'clock on the Pacific timeline. So everything gets shifted. And that also includes the post show. So everybody likes to have a drink and meet at the bar and blah, blah, blah. And normally on the road, you're meeting at the hotel bar. Right. But here, there's so many hotels and so many bars and so much time because you're off the air at about 7:00 on the Pacific time zone. And so look out, Loretta. It's rough.
Yeah. And it makes sense because WCW ran Halloween Havoc out there for several years. Why don't you think the company ran Vegas more often? I know a few years ago they ran a pay-per-view and boy, it was a terrible draw. I mean, they were trying to do family 4-packs and buy one, get one free and whatever they could right there at the end. Why is Vegas? Is there too much competition for the entertainment dollar? What do you think?
I think that has a big factor in it. It's hard to gain the attention of the ticket buyer live within that market because there's so much going on. At least there was, back in the day.
Right.
And I'm not sure of anything, but I'm hopeful it'll return that way for everybody. Especially some of my friends that are bartenders. You can't hardly get a better loyal friend, Conrad, than a good bartender.
Sure.
Really can't. And boy, I like that Norm treatment. Cheers. I got a couple 3 places I go to. Hey, JR. I like that. I guess it's my massive ego getting massaged, but it's fun to be treated. That's like personal care. I'm sure that's what you do with your mortgage company. You take care of people because without the people, the deals don't mean nothing.
That's right.
So, but yeah, it's always fun to do shows out there because there are so many things to do and you get part of your day back, even though you got to start early. So what? But at 4:00 soon comes and you're off and running.
So to remind everybody, here in February of 2001, ECW circling the drain. And of course, the WCW promotion is about to hit the iceberg about a month after this. We're coming off of Royal Rumble. We just saw Steve Austin win the Royal Rumble match that guarantees him a world title match at the upcoming WrestleMania 17. And of course there he'll be challenging whoever the world champ is. And tonight we're going to find out, will it be Kurt Angle or will it be The Rock? This show drew 15,223 fans, 13,119 paid a total gate of $683,955, another nearly 130 grand in merchandise, and 590,000 buys on pay-per-view. Boy, this is the heyday of WWF business, is it not?
Yeah, and comparing it to what we talked about recently here on the show, or some of those WCW, that Phoenix pay-per-view, Wrestle War.
Yeah.
What 3,800 people or something.
Abysmal.
Yeah, and it didn't make enough money to pay the ring crew. This was more delightful, quite frankly. It's fun to work for a full house. Yeah, try not to linger on that topic because there's nothing we can do about it right now with the COVID issues as they are. Even though we're doing pretty good on our live nights there at Daly's place in Jacksonville. So yeah, it was a good house. But look, Austin was back.
That's exactly right. He came back in October after being out for almost a year. He had that major neck surgery. He's obviously set up for another big run. And you're just about a month away from what most people consider to be one of the best WrestleManias of all time, WrestleMania 17. Where is that on your list, Jim?
As far as my favorite WrestleManias?
Yeah.
Oh, it's top. I can't think of one I like better. So it
go.
may be number one, but I can't think of any that I liked better. The WrestleMania 9 event was not as good an event, but it was more memorable because it was my first one.
Right.
For WWE in 93. So that's always going to be memorable. But as far as start to finish, WrestleMania 17 is going to be really hard to beat. And that's a good topic for online discussion and questions and answers and things of that nature, because there's an argument that can be made for other WrestleManias that were really good shows. But for me, 17 was special because of the locale, Rock and Austin, the McMahon, Austin heel turn, all that stuff, the TLC match, a lot of things on there. When you got a match on the card that has Undertaker versus Triple H, and it's not a quote unquote featured match, these cards got a lot of good quality depth.
Right.
That's just kind of what you're always looking for. So I think 17 is going to always rank there with me. It's going to be in the top 3, and it may be number 1.
Well, and it's going to be number 1 on your player when it comes out on March 25th. Mark your calendar, boys and girls. We are going to cover that WrestleMania. We'll also hit WrestleMania 20 this year. So lots of fun WrestleManias coming your way. Let's talk about some other news and notes as we head into the show. We just mentioned DCW is going out of business. Well, the WWF has signed one of their Impact players. Just incredible. Meltzer would write, the World Wrestling Federation has seemingly opened the doors and changed the equation as it pertains to the future of ECW. Polaco, 27, one of many ECW wrestlers who had gotten in extreme financial straits because of being behind in pay, as well as high medical bills when his wife gave birth, under the impression that an ECW deal included health insurance, some major pressure to make sure there was some sort of move for his future and what he was seriously contemplating getting out of pro wrestling. The news of his signing, as well as word getting out the WWF was having negotiations with Tajiri and Rhino, neither of whom have signed at press time, changed the equation from recent weeks, where the WWF said they wouldn't take ECW talent until Paul Heyman's situation cleared up, not wanting to ruin a potential sale or television deal for him. Heyman has been offered a job to write TV with the WWF, but he has not yet accepted that position, et cetera, et cetera. So lots of rumor and innuendo about ECW going down, and now all these talents maybe having discussions with you guys. How do you remember those three coming to be? Did Just Incredible call you? Did you call him? Did Heyman intervene? What do you remember about that?
It seems like I hired Just Incredible at the urging of some of his buddies.
Yeah.
And as you said, he was the key thing. PJ was not a bad worker whatsoever.
7 years old, which is
he's 27.
Yeah.
I like that. But I don't remember who turned me on to Tajiri. The first time I saw tape on Tajiri, I loved him.
Right.
Because he had great intensity. And, you know, we talked about that Japanese ladies match on Wrestle War.
That's right.
And how the women's tag match picked up when the kick started falling.
Yeah.
Stiff. Got everybody's attention. Ooh, oh. And I think that's a Tajiri reaction. He worked very snug but safe. And, of course, then Rhino was just a big, rugged, to me, he was a prototype rugged heel. And both those guys had good locker room decorum and had no blemishes on their background checks. They weren't dressing room lawyers. They were not, just miserable people to be around there. Tajiri's one of the funniest guys I think I was ever around. And Rhino was just reliable as the sun coming up and the sun setting. He just was, and he was believable. So we never planned on either of those three being headlining a WrestleMania, but we thought that they could help add some depth to our card and some new matches. They had the abilities to work with anybody. If we wanted to go over, they could and know how to do that. If they need to enhance somebody and do the honors, they were very proficient in doing that as well. But the one thing about our situation and all those ECW guys, every ECW guy I hired complained about the pay situation, late, unknown, whatever. And, so everybody complained about that. That's a great thing about coming to WWE at that point in time, and now today too, for sure. The money's there. So anyway, that's how that worked out. But they're all three really good talents. I use a baseball analogy sometimes. They may not hit cleanup for you, but they're really good having the lineup at the bottom of the batting order because they could deliver. And sometimes the bottom of the batting order needed to step up and deliver.
These days, it can feel like there's no price difference in eating out or staying in. And to make matters even worse, there's just so many unhealthy options out there to sift through. But Home Chef can help save you money and help you eat healthier with their fresh, delicious meal kits delivered right to your door. Home Chef delivers fresh ingredients and chef-designed recipes conveniently to your doorstep to simplify your cooking experience. And this is a game changer for JR and I. Man, it's a little overwhelming to go do all the shopping and all the prep, but when it shows up and it's turnkey, man, that's perfect for guys like JR and myself. And the users of the leading meal kits have rated Home Chef #1 when it comes to quality, convenience, value, taste, and recipe ease. And let's just be honest, Jim and I have tried a few of those. Home Chef is #1 in our book too. Whether you prefer those classic meal kits with pre-portioned ingredients or quick 30-minute recipes, oven-ready options, microwave meals, or even a dedicated family menu, Home Chef has everything for you and your family that you need for hassle-free, delicious dinners. Home Chef has over 30 options a week, and they serve a variety of dietary needs. And did I mention it's economical too? Yeah, Home Chef customers save an average of $86 per month on their groceries. And when meal planning ends up on the back burner, I want you to check out Home Chef's new 5-ingredient meals that simplify prep with super easy recipes using fresh, pre-portioned ingredients, and it's only 5 of them. Come on now. For a limited time only, Home Chef is offering our listeners 50% off and free shipping on your first box, plus free dessert for life. Go right now to homechef.com/JR. Jim is going to love this. Free dessert for life. That's right. Homechef.com/JR for 50% off your first box and free dessert for life. That's homechef.com/JR. Must be an active subscriber to receive free dessert. Homechef.com/JR.
Let's talk a little bit about ECW for a moment. You know, it's clear to the company that, hey, they're circling the drain here. Everybody's trying to abandon ship, and we've even reached out and made an offer for their head honcho, Paul Heyman, to come over. But it's also in the newsletter at this time, you know, for several weeks that Paul's trying to land a big TV deal. But as we get closer and closer to No Way Out, the reports start to read more like now he's looking for a buyer. Supposedly between 4 and 7 million is what he needs to clear up in debt. Some of his own money, some of his parents' money, some outside sources. But still, he's looking for a lifeline, and it doesn't come from the WWF. Was there ever any discussion about, hey, let's just buy these guys outright?
There was discussion, but was it serious discussion? I would say no to that one. Because we knew the dire straits that unfortunately Paul was in financially, and we figured that the logical conclusion in his story, in his case, was bankruptcy.
Right.
And at that point in time, if that occurred, and I think it did, we were prepared to buy the assets, which included the library, out of bankruptcy court or in bankruptcy court. So no, not really. You know, we've been helping Paul.
Right.
I think we paid Paul $50,000 a month because it came out of my talent relations budget.
No, wait, I've heard it was $1,000 a week. That would be $50,000 a year. You're saying you think it was $50,000 a month?
Boy, that you got me. I can't remember. Well, I don't remember. It's not long ago. It sounds like a lot of money, but in the big picture, the big scheme of things, it really wasn't. Yeah, I think it was. That $50,000 a month number sticks out, but I may be wrong on that too. In any event, here's the bottom line of the story without doing all the math and getting all fucked up about was it this, was it that? Not you, but just in general.
Yeah.
You know, shit, man, we were helping them.
Right.
They were getting he was getting a regular check to try to keep his doors open longer so that if he did indeed have a legitimate buyer, that he had more time to negotiate a deal. Vince was very, very kind to Paul in that regard. Because it'd been very easy to
squash him.
Yeah. Put him out of business. You know, all of his top talent wanted to leave because you go back and look in time. I hired most of them.
That's right.
You know, Dudley's, Taz, and others. The ones we got everybody we wanted, quite honestly. And they were calling me. I wasn't soliciting them. They were calling me because at Vince's insistence, we're not going to go out of our way to do anything harmful to ECW. We wanted to buy the library at some point.
Right.
Because we had the goal to do this network. You know, we'd already purchased a AWA library and others. So we wanted the library more than anything. And then Vince is going to leave it up to me on talent to bring in because, quite honestly, and I say this in all due respect, because some ECW alum will get pissed off, and is the fact that we were not going to do anything to steal talent. But when talent came to us and said, we're going to leave here, we're looking, and this WCW was in business at that time. You know, I had to either, you know, take a dump or get off the pot.
Right.
And so, but Vince that was not Vince's forte. He didn't watch ECW television.
Right.
I'm not so sure he was overly familiar with who the Dudleys were. I don't think he was overly familiar with who Taz was, among others. He just didn't watch that show.
Right.
And so at that time, I think they were on the MSG network, I believe. I'm not sure. Saturday nights about midnight or something. And I was, I watched it pretty regularly, I'd say. I was very familiar with the talent. So when they called, I knew who they were. So it was just, we didn't want to screw up. Vince is a lot kinder to Paul than other promoters could have been. He was very good in that regard. So, but we knew that it was giving them that money or paying Paul was like moving moving around the deck chairs on the Titanic. You kind of knew it was going down. So you just tried to stop the bleeding as best you can and get in line for some of those talents, because they did have some really good talent. And again, as I said, I think we did a nice job of hiring the best they had.
Let me ask, you said a few times that Vince was nicer to Paul than maybe he had to be in his dealings. Because don't get me wrong, at some point, a lot of promoters have to make some pretty cutthroat decisions. This seems to be like he's handling Paul with a lot of kindness. Why do you think that is? Is it because he felt like Paul was going to be a future player for him? He respected what he had done. He had a relationship that went back years and years. What was it about Paul that?
Well, I don't think it's the fact that he went back. Their relationship was very, very strong. I think it was the fact that Vince recognized talent.
Right.
And for any of us to try to argue the point that Paul Heyman didn't have significant talent from a cerebral standpoint would be ridiculous. And he did a lot with a little engine that could. Paul did a phenomenal job. I don't want to say brainwashing, because that's so extremely negative, but something motivating, whatever you want to say. But even to this very day, I listen to Busted Open on a regular basis because I like the guys that are on it, Dave LaGreca and Bubba. But Bubba talks about ECW in glowing terms, even though his pay was late, seemingly more often than not, and he had to wear multiple hats to earn more money to pay the tab, pay your rent, and so forth. So there was still a strong feeling of loyalty to the brand by some of their alums. And I don't have a problem with that. I'm very loyal to Mid-South Wrestling because that's where I got my start.
Right.
Real simple. So Paul did a good job of us against the world mentality, and that's worked in football. It's worked in ball games. Nobody thinks we can win, guys. It's just us in this room.
Right.
Nobody else. And so it's up to us to go out and prove everybody wrong type deal. And the brand was very defiant in its presentation.
Yes.
And some of those guys are still very defiant in defending ECW. They had a very unique brand. They had a very unique camaraderie within the locker room, which is pretty cool. So Vince just didn't, we knew we were going to get those guys, or we wanted to get a lot of their guys. We need to freshen up our roster. They had some good talents that were looking for their break. They had proven that they could work through challenging circumstances, i.e. not getting paid on a regular basis at times. So we kind of knew what we wanted to get out of ECW. The library, number one, and select talents, number two. And all that worked out. We knew we could do better if we stayed closer, as in 19 is to 20 to Paul, and showed him our loyalty. But look, if the only person we got out of that deal was Paul Heyman and no talent, we win.
Yeah. Because
he's a brilliant TV writer and a great creative guy, and one of the smartest I've ever been around. And I've been around some smart guys. Very, very lucky, very fortunate for me. So if Heyman was the only individual we pulled out of, extracted out of ECW, we win. But in addition to Paul, we got a lot of other people that were real good. And I hear, did you watch the One Night Stand and some of those ECW pay-per-views that we did?
I was there.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow. Conrad. Well, they had the right card and the right building, right atmosphere. Hey, look, here's the funny part about that. I'm in charge of talent relations, and I didn't go to the show.
Right.
I didn't need to go. I was told, you don't need JR, take a night off. We got, if this crew we got together to put this show on can't handle it, then we got problems.
Right.
So, and we had all the money to I want to believe that all the guys got a flat fee because we had no idea how it was going to do. And if you sell out, it was the Hammerstein Ballroom.
That's right.
If you sell it out, how much is that going to be?
Not a huge gate. Yeah.
No. So you got to get the guys a payday that they look forward to coming to earn, but they all really knew basically they were on a dress rehearsal.
Right.
In a lot of ways going forward. So, but they got confidence out of that. They talk about that a lot. So I love the loyalty that a lot of those ECW cats have with their brand, even though they had some challenging times making ends meet at times with the company. So it's admirable. But Heyman was a leader of that deal. He was a unique motivator, and we liked that trait. But it was obvious that he was very creative. I mean, my God, I knew that since I put him on his first announcing job on national TV, WCW, back in the late '80s. So it was a plan. We knew what we wanted from ECW. At the end of the day, we got everything we wanted from ECW. So Vince's positivity had a motive, and it worked out.
Finding the perfect car is a lot like dating, where you swipe through a bunch of different options. Some of them look better than they actually are, and you just hope you don't settle for quote unquote good enough when you know you really deserve something great. But with Car Gurus, you take the guesswork out of car buying. Real price analysis, vehicle history, price drop alerts, and the best deals means no bad dates, just good cars. Car Gurus will connect you with trusted dealerships when you're ready, ensuring a transparent and hassle-free buying process. With over 4 million listings, Car Gurus has more car listings than any other major online automotive marketplace in the United States, so you truly can find the best deal. Car Gurus gives you the control to shop how you want to shop with the tools, information, and data-driven deals that you need. It's no wonder that SimilarWeb estimated traffic data shows Car Gurus is the #1 most visited car shopping site. What are you waiting for? Go buy or sell your next car today with Car Gurus at cargurus.com. Go to cargurus.com to make sure your big deal is the best deal. That's cargurus.com. That's cargurus.com, cargurus.com.
Meltzer would say that it seems inevitable that Heyman is going to join the team sooner rather than later, and that this is a lot like Smoky Mountain in the end, where there were deals that could keep the company going a little longer, but Cornette recognized the end was inevitable. And he thinks that Heyman is probably in a similar situation here. And Dave also freestyles that Vince wanting to buy WCW is more about making sure no one else gets those valuable television slots, whereas with ECW, there is no television to pick up. So maybe that's the difference.
There was a library, though.
Yes, absolutely.
The library had value, knowing where we were going. And you're not buying contracts per se. You're buying the library because that's a tangible, real, you can touch it, you can feel it scenario. So that's how that worked out. It wasn't really, strong time slots and all that shit. You're talking about a very tentative, fragile, syndicated TV market. That stuff is fickle as hell. You could be here today, you could be in prime access on some local indies against Jeopardy or Wheel of Fortune or whatever it may be, or you could be on some isolated U at midnight on Saturday night. So the library was what we were really interested in. And because again, Vince didn't have the product knowledge at that time on the positives and the negatives of the talent because he did not watch the show. So, he didn't know Joey Styles is the commentary solo, and we hired Joey Styles at some point, who I thought was not managed well, but I thought Joey's a really good broadcaster. So that was a deal there. It wasn't time slots as much as it was. And I think Milch was wrong on that one. But it was the library in general was what we had our eye on.
Let's talk about some other behind the scenes maneuvering. Meltzer would report that Bruce Pritchard is going to be spending more time working with the writing staff, which is now head up by Stephanie McMahon. He's going to try to insert more wrestling logic into the show. Meltzer would say there are 3 main writers, 2 of whom are mainstream television writers, with Stephanie being the third. They're all big fans, but they don't know the wrestling basics about building programs and storylines, and that's where Pritchard will be helpful. He would also note that his brother Tom and Michael Hayes now have involvement in the writing process, although the head booker has, and always will be Vince McMahon.
To this very day.
Do you remember, Meltzer's basically given a report here that the writing staff has hit the wall, and that's the reason we're seeing a lot of the mid-card stuff essentially be repeated, where it's like, hey, didn't they just do that storyline a few months ago with another guy? Do you remember the writing team becoming a little burnout here in early 2001?
Yeah, I think so. What else are you going to do? They got to dig deeper. They got to look at things differently. Getting direction, they write and Vince vetoes it. They come back with another submission. He vetoes it, so then they end up just writing for one person. And they do that for job security and the lack of confrontation. The good thing about Heyman, if Heyman was on that team, was that Heyman embraced confrontation and would have a different slant and a point of view on virtually than anybody else, because he had different visions that he explored and he cultivated. So I think there was some of that was going on. I mean, let's remember, this is right before we got to Houston at the Astrodome at WrestleMania 17, and Austin turns heel. Was that good strategy? No. Was it a lame idea? Without a doubt. I talked to Steve just here a while back, and we were laughing about it. I said, here we got John Wayne. We want him to be a Nazi. I never understood it. They had no better ideas. It was different, and different doesn't always mean better. So Steve was, so in other words, you're saying to me, the guy that sold more tickets, more pay-per-views, more merchandise in the history of this company, i.e. the history of the business, is we can't think of anything for him. You have to be shitting me. And you call yourself a writer. You're casting agent. You're a director. Whatever you want to say you are that fits your ego from the TV world. Because you damn sure don't want to be known as a pro wrestling writer, for God's sakes. That'd just be the kiss of death for Lord Conrad. Couldn't have that. So that's where I see that deal. The evidence in the hitting the wall could be no better illustrated than the fact that, well, why don't we just turn Austin heel? Even though Steve wanted to be a heel, he wanted to try it because being a heel is more fun than being a babyface. It was at one time, perhaps, for some talents, but Austin was that quasi guy. He had the significant colors of gray. He was never told he wrestled as a heel, as a babyface. So I never really understood that. I was not for it from the beginning. Steve and I talked about it. I talked with Vince about it until I was blue in the face and I didn't close my deal. So yeah, they hit the wall, because when you can't figure out an idea to use Austin as a babyface to get a heel hotter than hell and give Austin a reason to chase him or to confront him, then you're not doing your work.
Let's talk about Drew Carey here for a moment. There's a Drew Carey pay-per-view, and the WWF has been promoting the shit out of it. And Meltzer thinks that maybe it was some sort of cross promotion where, because Drew was in the Royal Rumble, now the company will help promote the pay-per-view. He says, by the looks of it, you would think that WWF was a co-promoter on the venture, but they're not. I've always been fascinated by Drew Carey and his little stint in WWF, because it felt like he wanted to be anywhere but there. But we roll out the red carpet for him, and he has a pitiful Royal Rumble appearance. We promote his pay-per-view, and then later we put him in the Hall of Fame. Meanwhile, Cyndi Lauper from WrestleMania 1, no such luck. What do you think that is?
Politics. Of course, you know what the answer is, Conrad. Politics. Somewhere along the way, she pissed in the wrong bowl of Cheerios. Either it was tough dealings with her husband and manager at the time. I don't know what lingers there in the cloak of darkness. I was not, look, I think Drew Carey on The Price is Right is funny and entertaining.
Sure.
I think he's a very talented guy, but let's remember, he started out as a stand-up comedian, working before 200 or 300 people, like a Zanies, working smaller houses. So when getting a big company like WWE that had a proven track record in selling pay-per-views to help sell your pay-per-view was a good business deal for him.
Of course.
He got stretch out of it. And so he was excited about that. Obviously, he was not excited about the Royal Rumble.
Right.
Because it was the unknown and there was physicality involved. He had to do a stunt. I don't know if he'd ever done a stunt before. Right. So you have apprehensions and you have worry. What if I get hurt? So I could understand his apprehensions, but I never thought. I thought it wasn't as big a deal as we made it out to be. In other words, I think Drew Carey was very talented and still is, still on TV, still making big money. All that is great. In his arena, he's making big money. He left his comfort zone and came over to us for that one night thing. And I think he was very apprehensive about it and insecure about it. He didn't want to look bad. None of those big high dollar athletes want to look bad. None of the talent want to look bad. So that's kind of the way I saw that. You hope that it's going to get you some stretch on TMZ or Entertainment Tonight or whatever the case may be. Some of those, any of those shows, the E Network, all those things. But at the end of the day, is that going to help your buy rate? I don't know. I really don't know. So I don't think it did, quite honestly. I might be wrong about that too, Connie.
In this era, there's an interesting piece of news that I kind of forgot. Bobby Eaton was signed to be the head trainer of the WWF's developmental territory in Memphis. What are your memories of that? Why didn't it work out? I mean, I've always thought, man, if everybody praises him as being one of the best in ring all time, he should be a trainer. He was, but it didn't last.
Well, there's a difference in being a great worker and being able to teach great working.
Sure.
So, Bobby's communication skills, albeit genuine, were not as refined as you might ideally want in a teacher. But if he just taught what he did and you could learn what Bobby Eaton does, then you're going to be automatically a better worker. So I think that was part of it. And I also might have been the money. That was not a high paying gig. And Bobby, had family and obligations and need the cash. A lot of those guys in his era that made good money didn't save it. Not only did they not pay their taxes, they didn't even file the damn things. So it was tough. So I would think it's part of the cash might have been a big reason. But Bobby's communication skills, even though I've never had a bad conversation with him ever, and I understood Alabama. I understand. I get it.
Still speak it all these years later. That's
right. So, but it certainly wasn't anything about. Well, we found out he didn't know as much about wrestling as we thought he did. That's ridiculous. He just, I think, he was the wrong place, wrong guy at the wrong time. But again, the love and respect that Bobby had earned got him that opportunity or the potential opportunity. So, but that's all that was. I'm thinking probably more money than anything else.
Anywhere worth going is worth going in good boots. Find your perfect pair with Tecovas. I know my dad has. I've told the story before. I gifted my dad not one, but 2 pair of these for Christmas. They had a bit of a flood in his house and it damaged his Tecovas boots. And when the adjuster came over, the adjuster was like, "Oh, we can't have that. I know how nice those Tecovas are." Everybody loves Tecovas. Have you ever wondered if you can pull off boots with your personal style? Well, you owe it to your feet to pull on a pair of Tecovas. You see, being confident isn't about being different. It's really just about being yourself. You can find comfort in the traditions of the West and confidence from making it your own. Honor the West by leaving your own boot print. You see, Tecovas crafts quality Western boots for everyone, from generational ranchers and lifelong cowboys to guys like me, first-time boot buyers. Every one of Tecovas boots are handcrafted with over 200 meticulous steps for broken-in comfort that comes right out of the box. Whether it's a long day or for a big night, your Tecovas are built to last and impress, and there's no compromise between quality and style. I'm going to love recommending Tecovas to you because I've loved recommending them to everyone in my family. At this point, both of my cousins have Tecovas. My mom has a pair. My sister has a pair. My wife has a pair. And it all started with my dad's first 2 pair. And man, we all love them. And here's what we love. The Tecovas Best in the West guarantee, where you get free returns and exchanges for 30 days. How do you beat that? That's how you know it's a quality product. Right now, get 10% off at tecovas.com/grillingjr whenever you sign up for email and text. That's 10% off at tecovas.com/grillingjr. That's 10% off at tecovas.com/grillingjr. That's tecovas.com/grillingjr. See site for details. Tecovas, point your toes west.
Road Dogg finds himself fired on January 26th. This is pretty big news because he was one of the biggest stars in the company at one point, and not that long before this. Had his personal situation just become unworkable? What can you tell us about this?
I can't remember back that far on the specifics, but I assume that, assume that it had something to do with his demons.
Right.
Don't know exactly the extent of everything. It's been a long time. But look, I'll tell you this, Road Dogg was a very valuable member of the team. He found himself in that DX entity. He discovered who he could be and what he could be. And, he had some 7-figure years working for us. And, I remember talking to the late Bob Armstrong, Road Dogg's dad, and I said, I'm really proud of Brian, and he's doing a great job. He's a hell of a hand. He's found himself in his role. His dad agreed. He said, I hope he takes all that money he's making and buys a farm. I don't know if he ever bought the farm or not, but we would not have gotten rid of Road Dogg on January 26th if we didn't have a real good reason. Because you don't throw away a A-lister guy, a main event guy. You don't just get rid of him arbitrarily. So there was a good reason. I'm sure there was backup to it. And I assume it had something to do with drugs and alcohol.
Let's talk a little bit about the business. We're going to skip all the XFL stuff. We've talked a lot about that in the past. It sort of is what it is.
Yeah.
I do want to briefly mention the wrestling piece of the company's business. Attendance is down 4.6%, but revenues for those live shows are up 15.4%. So I wondered, how is that possible? Well, here's what we've been doing. Your average ticket price in 98 was $18.84. Your average ticket price in 99 was $23.84. Your average ticket price in 2000, $28.85. We've started to see, hey, we can add $5 here and there, and they're still going to be here. And it makes a huge difference, right?
Of course it does. It's absolutely, you're right. We looked at other touring events, circus, concerts, things of that nature, ice capades, whatever. And $28.85 was, it averaged $28.85, meaning that there are some tickets cheaper than that.
Of course. So
I think we tried to basically just mirror what the market would bear, Conrad, and we felt like that the market would accept that, and by and large they did. As long as we had something hot, we had Austin on the card.
No, they definitely did. I mean, your average gate goes way up. To give specifics here, you go from 286,000 to 330,000. So you're carving off nearly an extra 50 grand per live event, which is more cheese on your Whopper, as you like to say.
Yep.
Pay-per-view buy rates are also up. They go from a 1.25 to a 1.34. The TV rating is actually down a little bit, down 3%, but some of that is probably because of everything that's been happening with the TV deal at the time. Let's talk about deals with Shawn Michaels. You have a Ross report at the time where you're doing a bit of a blog online, and you reveal that Shawn Michaels had signed a contract for several years. And Meltzer, of course, thinks this means he's going to be back on TV as a major character imminently. And you also talk about signing a contract extension for Al Snow and getting Rhino to sign his deal, and Dave Taylor also coming in. Talk to me a little bit about Shawn coming back, because this is something you've teased here on the show before, but at this point, nobody knew he would be able to wrestle, but you knew he wanted to. You just had to sort of convince him to sign, right?
Yeah, I had to convince him that to not lose his confidence.
Right.
He was shattered. He didn't have a lot of confidence. He had all the traits that you could lend to being burned out. I think he was burned out on the lifestyle that he was living and the life he was leading, because drugs and alcohol in it played a part, too much of a part. So, my pitch to him was, look, you owe it to your legacy and you owe it to the business to let these kids share in your wisdom and your expertise, because you being around at that time, I was talking to him. He was a born again Christian. It was legit, and he was drug free as best I knew. I had multiple meetings in San Antonio with him and his lawyer, Skip. I can't remember Skip's last name. He was Skip McCormick. Really nice man. Shawn had a good lawyer. I think his mom and dad probably helped Shawn with selecting Skip, who was a real honorable guy. And it's hard to use the word honorable and lawyer in the same sentence and not laugh out loud or have a spit take. But that was the deal. I said, if you don't wrestle another match, which would be a crime, by the way, because you're better than anybody we got, that it's going to be horrible. But at least you can be around the talent. And you can see some young kid who grew up idolizing you that is starting to make a turn on the wrong road. And I believe you have the judgment, and you certainly have the ability to spot that and to help correct it and let these kids live their dream. So that was my pitch on that deal. It wasn't said, I want you to, we want you to come back and have this program with this guy, another program with this guy. I didn't do any booking because that wasn't my area. But I knew what he could mean to our company, and I knew that him having success, return success after that 4-year absence, would be great for his psyche, for his demeanor, the whole 9 yards. Because he was at a whole different place than he was when he left 4 years earlier. Whole different place, different dude. So that's kind of that situation. And all those other guys that we hired, nobody could look at that list of the Al Snows and Rhino, Dave Taylor, Taz, and say that they weren't talented guys. All of them had something to add to the equation in a positive way. And of course, teaching, coaching was one area that they all were excelled at and had done well in. So again, we're starting to get everything we wanted from ECW. We were getting, we're hiring the talents that we wanted. I don't have any regrets in those guys we signed. So anyway, it's all. I like this thing here. It says Rhino signed his contract believed to be $100,000, which is about right. Probably $2,000 a week, and on reality for 3 years plus an option for a 4th year. Plus, get this, Conrad, a whopping $5,000 signing bonus.
He probably needed to pay some bills or something.
Exactly.
Yeah.
$5,000 is relative.
Yeah.
For some people it means nothing. For some people it means everything. It means getting your lights. I'm not saying Rhino had his lights turned off or anything like that, but seriously,
right.
$5,000 in new money can help you get caught up on some of your things, some of your bills. So it's just a different place, different time. And so anyway, and all those guys, we were trying to build that Tough Enough brand franchise. And we felt like that all those people that we hired, that group I just mentioned, had the skill sets to teach fundamentals, bring some personality to the show. And of course, we all know that they're all going to try to get themselves over. That's the nature of the beast. Talent can't help that. I'm not knocking them either by it. But if they can show on TV that they're an entertaining character, they're good communicators, they have a gift of gab, blah, 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 then Vince sees that, and then he might be able to use those skills within the body of Raw or SmackDown.
Let's talk about some other skills coming into the company. Meltzer would report that the company has signed John Heidenreich a former WLAF player said to be 6'7" and 320 pounds, ripped. He's going to get a developmental contract after some connections with the UPW, who we've talked about a lot out in California. And it's also written WWF is going to send a major star to the UPW show, which at this point will also be attended by Jim Ross and Bill Moody, aka Paul Bearer. So you guys had a pretty good relationship with UPW. I mean, you're going to find a lot of talent out there, including John Cena. But Heidenreich, what do you remember about him coming in?
He was a size higher, had the pro football background, great facials, he distinctively in compelling look, but he was green as grass. He's a football guy. So he was a size higher. And, you know, I don't remember too many issues with John, to be honest with you. But I just remember his aptitude for the genre itself was not very refined. Pardon me. So, but the potential, here's the thing, you take a flyer to a guy like it. You don't pay him a whole lot of money, but you pay him enough money to keep him interested, pay his bills, so he can focus on training. But we thought, well, this son of a bitch is big and impressive and has a distinctive look. If we could get him fundamentally sound and teach him how to do basic rudimentary things in the ring that a big man would do, then we would be ahead of the curve. It's just the fact that, you know, some guys have the aptitude for the business and some guys just don't. And in my opinion, and I might be wrong, and the John Heidenreich fan club out there might disagree, but I thought that John had a problem assimilating the nuances of being a pro wrestling performer. But as far as a bad guy or anything, no. Some guys just don't have, you know, if you didn't grow up a fan, you don't, aware of the product as much, or you could disconnected with it at some point in your formative years. Sometimes it's hard to regain that. And I think that's the case with John. The only thing I remember about John significantly was when he molested Michael Cole in that backstage scene. You remember that?
Yeah. So
it was another creative, hey, let's be sensational, you know, and whatever. But was it going to sell any tickets? How are you going to advertise that? Cole's molester in main event.
Yeah.
Come on. It's not something, molestation is not something you'd probably honor or want to underscore. So anyways, again, one of those ill thought out, don't have a better idea, let's try this ideas.
All right, let's talk about growing your business. I'm talking to you if you're a small business owner. Listen, I was trying to grow my mortgage company like 15 years ago. I was buying radio, I was buying TV, and I knew I needed to buy quote unquote digital. What the hell did that mean? I didn't understand it. So I went to a radio station and they took my order and they took my money. I got no results. I tried it again with the television station. They took my order, they took my money, and no leads. And then I found Eric Nichols and Envision Marketing Consultants. They can handle everything for you just like they did for me. As a matter of fact, whenever someone says, hey man, I need help with my website growing, SEO and pay per click and just getting some more traffic, what should I do? I always say, I got a guy. And I encourage you to talk to my guy. His name is Eric Nichols, Envision Marketing Consultants. I feel so strongly. Check this out. He's at conradsguy.com. That's right. He is my guy when it comes to learning the entire digital space. Did you know that they change these algorithms on like a daily basis? I mean, I know we hear that, but do you really understand that? It means if you figure this out and you got it down pat, well, it's all going to change tomorrow. How can you stay on top of all of that and your business at the same time? You can't. You need a guy. You need my guy at conradsguy.com. Whether you're looking for SEO or pay per click or targeted display, or maybe you just want ads on streaming video like Hulu or YouTube or Amazon. If your company's doing any of that or they want to, go to conradsguy.com right now. Let my buddy Eric take a look. He and his pals have decades of experience, and most importantly, they're staying on top of the changes and optimizing my campaign. Here's what I mean, guys. They're going to stay on top of the dollars I'm spending to make sure they do a little more of what works and a little less of what doesn't. And they know better than me what works or what doesn't because they do this for other people. They do it for people in B2B and retail and food and beverage and manufacturing and nonprofits. Hell, if they can do it for mortgages, they can do it for you. And if they can't help your company, Eric will tell you you're on the right track and man, that'll give you some nice peace of mind too. Trust me, it's worth the few minutes it'll take. If they're half as good for you as they were for me, it's going to be a home run. Get a quick quote and talk to my friends about growing your business with my buddies at conradsguy.com. That's Envision Marketing Consultants, where smart but simple marketing drives results at conradsguy.com.
Let's talk a little bit about Jerry Lawler. He's your broadcast partner here. Unfortunately, this is going to be the last pay-per-view you're going to call with him for a while, because his wife is going to wind up getting let go. I believe that happened on February 27th in Tucson, Arizona. I'll say that because she's on this show. She's on the Raw show on February 26th in Phoenix. But the next day in Tucson, she's not on the show and never again. So I'm pretty sure it happened that day in Tucson. And I know we've talked about this before, but in hindsight, do you think that's one of Lawler's biggest regrets?
Goddamn. Oh.
There he is right there calling to chime in and give us his 2 cents.
He was wondering what we were talking about.
His ears were burning.
Yeah. The question was what, Conrad, again? I'm sorry. About Lawler.
Lawler, this is his last pay-per-view.
Yeah. Wow. I didn't know that. Yeah. I didn't connect all those dots. Well, I said this before, I thought the world of Stacy. Jan and I went to their wedding in Vegas. Speaking of Vegas, Jan and Stacy became good buddies because Lawler and I were together a lot. We did pay-per-views and things, as people know. So sometimes in those big events, you would bring your significant other to enjoy a long weekend or whatever it may be. And she just was a sweetheart, I thought. But she apparently, based on what the writers said, those same writers that couldn't find an idea for the Stone Cold Babyface to do viably said she was too hard to work with. So they caught Vince on a day that he was not in a real great mood, apparently.
Right. So
all I got called in Vince's office, I want her gone. What? And I want her gone today. So, that's where your job becomes very challenging. Look, there's no way I'd have fired her, no matter what the writers said, without talking to the writers and telling you what did she do that you believe merits her dismissal. Explain to me so I know. I didn't do that because I had no room to do that. I asked, could I do some checking around? No, she's gone. Well, you got a decision maker, Conrad. It's not like, well, I'd have done anything. I'd have challenged Vince in that deal. Well, you're stupid if you do that. That's what he wanted, because I knew that if we got past this day and she took some time off, that there's a good chance we could bring her back. He forgives, hey, look at me. I've been there in and out.
Right.
So I know that there's a propensity to do that by him, but we didn't count on, and I don't think Vince did either, that Lawler was going to support her and leave.
Right.
And that was a little different of a twist to the plot. So, but apparently, some of the writers and who were producing her segments, the thing about Stacy, unlike a lot of the women, Stacy had product knowledge. She lived the business since she was a teenager, being Lawler's girlfriend and then his wife. So she had a little bit more of a knowledge and a basic fundamental skill set as far as the psychology and the understanding of the product than did a lot of the other divas. And with that said, she would question things, ask questions. It wasn't like, I'm not going to do this, I'm not going to do that. Well, that doesn't make any sense. You're stupid, whatever. It says she would ask for the logic behind something that she was going to do, which is if you're a good producer, you got no problem with talent asking questions, because you can explain it and sell it to them. But in any event, they lost patience, this crew of creative in that regard, and she was out. Then Lawler says he's out. So, he felt like he was doing the right thing, and I admire what he did. But it was something we hadn't planned on, certainly. And and losing Lawler off the broadcast team was significant in my opinion. It was to me. Certainly was to me. He was my partner. And, he was my Olivia Benson. He was my partner. Of course, I'm going to be Elliot Stabler. You must not watch SVU.
No.
But seriously, it was an unfortunate deal all the way around. A lot of overreaction. I thought that the writers / producers, whomever, had issues that were unwarranted and was a little bit of knee jerk. Yeah. Okay, Stacy, we got these problems. We're going to smooth this out with the writers. I want to send you home for a month. I'll take care of you financially while you're off, so you're not going to get behind on your bills, even though Lawler's making great money. But something about being independent and keep earning your keep and having a sense of accomplishment.
Sure.
But I didn't get a chance to do that. That's how I would have handled it. I didn't get a chance to do that. So, and then Jerry, well, I got to go talk to Vince. I said, well, that's the only way it's going to get solved. So he went to Vince, and Vince rebuked him. Can't do it. We're done. Well, then I'm done. Well, I hate to hear that, but that's where we are. So it was a tough day. Luckily, the aforementioned Paul Heyman was standing in the shadows. And he was when I was asked about, kind of what now, and answering my own question, Heyman was the obvious answer.
Right.
And I thought for two guys that had not worked together since WCW days, that we caught up very quickly. And I thought that our team was entertaining and kind of combustible, controversial. Heyman knew how to piss me off, get red-ass JR going. I knew how to do the same to him. So for some bizarre, perverse reason, our on-air, quote-unquote, hate, there was never any hate. But we parlayed it like it was. So, and people, I think some people tuned in to see who's going to blow up first tonight, because every week there was some shit going on.
Let's talk about the pay-per-view. Here we are. There's a match on Sunday Night Heat that's worth discussing. We got Rikishi beating Matt Hardy by DQ in about 4 minutes. Rikishi's mouth is busted open early. Lita comes in and tries to interfere with a low blow for the DQ. And then Jeff runs in and does a corkscrew body block. And then eventually Haku comes out, and boy, everybody scatters. You guys had just picked up Haku from WCW. He sort of wasn't on their radar, even though he was their hardcore champion. So you called him the Wednesday before the Rumble. He makes a big surprise there, even though he was just won the hardcore title for WCW. Ming is a good pickup, no matter what name he uses or what he's coming in from. He's a guy you want on your roster no matter what, right?
Yeah. He was, I'm trying to fix my light here. He was a keeper. And Vince liked him. That always helps. And a nice guy, a good locker room guy. And we've talked about his ferocity and being a badass. And he was, and he is. I got a lot of respect for Ming. And his kids, he's got 2 kids in New Japan that do a hell of a job.
Yes, they do.
Yeah, they're good. I'd love to have them in AEW somewhere down the road. They're just very talented. I love their intensity. They got the right DNA, man. They get it. And they bring it. I appreciate that. So we were trying to come up that week, and there are other calls I made that week, the week of the Rumble, to get some surprises brought in. Honky Tonk Man was one. I remember having the conversation with Honky Tonk Man. We'd like for you to enter the Royal Rumble. I don't know what number. I don't know how long you'll be in. I know you're not winning it, and here's what I'll pay you. Simple. So, and Wayne, aka the Wayne Ferris, aka the Honky Tonk Man, was doing a lot of indie dates. I knew that he wasn't making the money that I was going to pay him for the Rumble, so I thought it'd be an easy close, and it was, because it still gets you a dress rehearsal with Caesar.
Yeah,
and maybe Caesar sees something. There's a little bit left in that persona, and maybe that persona gets an extension on that shelf life. So Honky came in to do that. Ming was basically same way. We needed some fresh faces for the Rumble. and he had a great reputation. He had a unique look. He was an experienced veteran. He knew how to travel. He knew how to interface in the locker room. A lot of things that a lot of fans don't think about. Ming did have checked all those boxes.
Hey, chat me up about the name Caesar. I think you've told us before when you first joined the company back in '93, one of the office people referred to Vince as Caesar. Who was that? Do you remember?
Strongbow.
Yeah.
Chief J. Strongbow referred to Vince as Caesar, i.e. Julius Caesar, the emperor, the king, the man. So it was Caesar. There were so many nicknames. Strongbow was a nickname king. I think he called Patterson Wimpy out of the character that was in the Popeye cartoons.
Yeah.
I'll gladly pay you Tuesday for a hamburger today. Everybody had a nickname. And they're all one word nicknames.
Yeah.
Kind of hyphenated. Golden Boy was Arnie. But yeah, Caesar was Vince. And what you didn't want to hear, especially a young guy like me that was going in and had not been in that kind of environment, exactly like the uniqueness of WWF at the time, was, you didn't want to hear, oh, Caesar's in a bad mood today.
Right.
Stay clear, kid. Stay clear. Thanks. So, and that's what we did. It's Caesar, as in Julius Caesar.
Let's talk about the pay-per-view itself. Big Show's going to wind up the hardcore champion in a singles match that turned into a battle royal with Raven, Steve Blackman, Hardcore Holly, Crash Holly, and Billy Gunn. It gets a 1.5 stars. There's lots of little shenanigans here. You see Molly Holly and Ninja Girl run in, and Molly's using a garbage can shot on Ninja Girl, and Big Show chokeslams Raven on a garbage can to get the title. I mean, listen, there's lots of stuff and fun and silliness. But I get the impression that you weren't really a fan of any of this hardcore stuff.
No, too gimmicky for me. And I've called a lot of gimmick matches. So it's not that, well, you call this, you call that, you narrated the, corpse thing, the Katie Vick stuff, things of that nature. How could you not like this? Because I grew up in an era where hardcore wrestling was a kind of a subsidiary of the Brass Knucks title. Watts made the Brass Knucks title very, very popular in Mid-South way back in the day. So a guy like the miserable SOB Bob Sweetan was a perfect Brass Knucks champion because there's no DQ. It's just a lot of juice, and you could use gimmicks and loaded gloves and loaded fists and blah, blah, blah. It was taken more seriously. It was more reality-based because of the coarse and graphic nature of the match, how the matches were booked in that era. Then all of a sudden, the 24/7 title, which is totally unrealistic, and so forth, then that became the new version of the Brass Knucks title. I was envisioning more a sporadic appearance of that title. I was looking for, when you watch that match, you knew what you were going to get. It's going to be very violent, very physical, very graphic at times. This became a comedy show. It's that way today. Any fan listening, you may enjoy it because of the entertainment content. Conrad, do you enjoy the 24/7 title?
Nope.
It's a comedy piece. Now, it's a comedy piece that's not presented as a comedy piece.
Right.
And that's my issue. So I'm not a big fan of it. And, of course, I'm not there, and it doesn't matter what I think anyway. But bottom line is, I think it's lost its luster.
Sure.
And how many times can R-Truth become a champion? Well, Vince loves R-Truth, and I don't know who doesn't, as far as just being a good human being and funny and a team player. And for a guy his age, how he looks is pretty amazing. But it's just it's a comedy feature. And I would like it better if it was featured as a comedy feature, where there's some laughter by the announcers and there was some fun presentation. I don't feel that or sense that. And maybe it's there and I just miss it because I don't watch very much WWE product, not because I'm boycotting it, just time and inclination.
Yeah.
But I'm not a big fan of that deal. Now this match, if you look at all those talents, Billy Gunn, Bob Holly, Crash, Blackman, Raven, all those guys are good hands.
Oh yeah.
They're not comedy characters. They became comedy characters, especially like a Crash Holly or whatever. And sometimes guys will see these matches and they say, well, this is not off because all we're going to do is, as Patterson would say, ha-ha. We're going to do ha-ha. I had to learn what that meant too. Oh, this match is going to be just a lot of ha-ha. What does that mean? They're going to stop in the middle of the match to tell jokes? I don't, what do you mean ha-ha? So that's what it was. But it was interestingly booked. You know, it had, Molly was in it. I'm a big fan of Molly Holly, Nora Greenwald. I used to call her Nora Miss Greenwald at TV. She'd just laugh. What a sweetheart she is. And can't tell you how much she contributed to our team effort. And a lot of divas have made a lot more money than the Nora, old Nora, among others. A debt of gratitude for helping them learn the ropes. So, no, I'm not a big fan of the hardcore stuff, but, this one was not horrible. It wasn't as comedically oriented as most of them are, especially today.
Let's talk about what else is happening here. We see earlier in the day, the WWF champion Kurt Angle arrived by limousine. He's interviewed here by Kevin Kelly, and responding to Kelly's question about how he was feeling, Angle insists he wasn't at all worried about facing The Rock later tonight. Back live in the arena, we see Lillian Garcia interview Eddie Guerrero and Chris Benoit. Let's take a time out. I want to ask, what do you think of Kevin Kelly's work? He's done a great job over with New Japan, but
yeah, I
was really surprised that maybe did he fall out of favor with Caesar? Why did he not stick around the company here longer?
I think, I'm not sure Kevin could answer that better than I, obviously, but I think his issue may have been, the origins of his issue that caused him to leave may have been with Kevin Dunn.
Okay. That makes sense.
Yeah. I'm not 100% sure that. I know that there was in the very beginning when they changed his name from his real name of Kevin Foote, Foote, that he and was going to be named Kevin Kelly. There was something as silly as he wanted Kelly to have an E in it, Kelley, I believe, something, or vice versa. And that was an issue that he died on the wrong hill, as I remember. And I might be wrong. Kevin could correct me. But I think that he and Kevin Dunn had a chat, and it was the wrong thing to chat about on the wrong day. Don't die on that hill, whether you want another vowel in your name or not. For God's sake.
Hang on. Kevin Kelly is no longer with WWE because he got in a fight with Kevin Dunn about.
No, I didn't say that, Conrad. I didn't say that.
But that's what the clickbait sites are going to say, and I just want to make sure we're telling the story right.
I don't know why he finally got let go, other than them thinking we just don't have a place for him. I worked with Kevin on Raw. I even worked with Kevin for Access TV on a New Japan show or two.
Yeah.
And I always like working with Kevin. He's always well prepared. He was respectful. He's a good kid. He's not a kid anymore. He's a good guy. And don't think that doing voiceovers for New Japan on a remote location is easy technologically or whatever. I wish so many times back in my run with Access TV, and we were doing those voiceovers with Josh Barnett, I wish we could have been there live. It'd been so much better than sitting in a room about this size and looking at a big TV screen and calling matches. There's no ambiance. There's no feel. You got to create it. And then if you create it, then it's a little bit fabricated. But I know that they didn't start off on the right foot, no pun intended. And I think that Billy Gunn, who had worked with Kevin Kelly in Florida, or some organization, some indie type organization, was the guy that got to hand his tape off to Kevin Dunn. And, he had a decent look and he had product knowledge and, he was very motivated. He was a big fan of the genre. So I had no issues with Kevin ever, not one time. But I know that he kind of started off the wrong foot. He may have taken himself too seriously. We all have. We all still do. So, but that was the deal there. He did a nice job. I just thought he'd probably be there for years and years. And probably he did too.
I hope somebody listening does some sort of a drawing or recreation of Kevin Dunn and Kevin Kelly battling over the letter E. It said it on like Sesame Street. That's tremendous.
Yeah, it was all about a vowel.
Maybe there's a Wheel of Fortune deal in there too.
All right, guys, let's talk about Jim Ross's wiener. Man, he gets it so hard. I mean, you'd be surprised how hard he gets. He could hammer nails with that thing. Thanks to Blue Chew Max, it combines Viagra and Cialis into one chewable. It's a combo that acts fast and it lasts. Those active ingredients in Viagra and Cialis are what we're really talking about. And man, you're going to be ready whenever she or he needs it. And right now, you can even get your first month of Blue Chew free. Yeah, great sex is just a few clicks away. You'll sign up at BlueChew.com. You'll consult with one of their licensed medical providers. And once you're approved, you'll receive your prescription within days. Blue Chew's tablets are made in the USA. They're prepared and shipped directly to your door. And the best part is it's all done online. That means no visits to the doctor's office, no awkward conversation, and no waiting in line at the pharmacy. Make your life easier by getting harder and discover your options at BlueChew.com. And we've got a special deal for our listeners. Try your first month of Blue Chew free when you use our promo code JR. Just pay $5 shipping. That's promo code JR. Visit BlueChew.com for more details and important safety information. And we thank Blue Chew for sponsoring today's podcast. And Jim's wiener.
Chris Jericho is going to retain the Intercontinental title over Eddie Guerrero, Chris Benoit, and X-Pac. 3.5 stars. They get 12 minutes and 18 seconds. Meltzer would say they teased Benoit and Guerrero joining forces, so of course they wind up turning on each other, presumably to start a program to turn Benoit face. Lots of near falls and saves. Just Incredible helped out X-Pac and took one great bump when Benoit knocked him off of the apron. Jericho gets the walls of Jericho on everyone, and finally Credible came out with X-Pac in the walls. Benoit does a dragon suplex on Jericho for a near fall. We get the lion salt for a near fall, an X Factor, but Benoit breaks it up. We get the crossface on X-Pac, but Guerrero breaks it up. Finally, Guerrero does a low neck breaker on Benoit, but it's broken up, and it ends with Jericho doing a rolling reverse cradle on X-Pac for the win. Listen, 4 very, very capable performers. We know 3 of these guys are best of friends. It felt like once upon a time, X-Pac was the measuring stick in wrestling as to whether or not you could go. And all of these guys could go. This is a forgotten, really fun match. What do you think?
It was the right match to start the show off with. We've often said how important the first match is. If you're going to be on a pay-per-view and you're a wrestler, it's not a bad draw to be either first or last.
So in your head, you're just like, let's forget the whole hardcore shit. This is the real first match, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
We're officially underway. And look, I put these guys over in the hardcore match.
Yeah.
And deservedly so. Compare that match and the talents within that match to this match. This match was star-studded.
Yeah.
These are 4 of the very best workers in the world at that time. And of course, all the naysayers could go back and look at it and say, well, what? Jericho, Guerrero, Benoit, and X-Pac, you've got to be shitting me telling me, well, there's that one time, in 1834, So anyway, I love this match. I thought it was very, very well worked. I thought that the thing about it is you got to understand as a fan and as a student of the game, you get 4 guys that have all got to be on the same page regarding being unselfish and allowing your peers to get some of their quote unquote shit in. Let them do their best stuff, because their best stuff is what the fans deserve, especially if you're watching on pay-per-view. And if you paid an average of $28 and change for your ticket, which is probably higher at pay-per-view. So I like this match. All those guys are my hires, our team's hire, better said. Still working with Jericho on Wednesday nights on TNT, and and I miss Eddie and Chris, and X-Pac, one of my dearest friends to this very day. We became friends later on because he could be a little bit of a problem child in those eras, but he never was malicious or mean-spirited. He just had issues he wasn't controlling well. And so that's a medical issue in my view. That's not a character thing where he's rotten to the core. Sean Waltman was never, ever rotten to the core. Sean Waltman has a good heart, especially today. I know he's getting his knees fixed or something. He's, wear and tear, man. But what a smart kid. He could be very easily on somebody's booking team. I'm surprised that he isn't. I think maybe his reputation follows him too closely and maybe somewhat unwarranted in today's world. But he's got a very, very bright mind. I think that's why his relationship with Nash and Hall was so everlasting, even though Waltman was not the big star, positions the big star that Nash and Hall were. I remember Strongbow called him the trailer hitch. Sean Waltman's nickname was the trailer hitch. Have you seen Trailer Hitch? No, sir. I did not. I have not. So he might be outside smoking. Hell, I don't know where he is, Chief. I'm sorry. I don't know. I'll go. You want me to find him for you? Well, if you see him, tell me I need to talk to him. Okay, Chief. I will. That's Trailer Hitch, right? Yeah, Trailer Hitch. Okay. So it was a great match, man. And I, quite frankly, 3.5 stars might have been a little soft.
Yeah, I thought it was real good. Let's talk about backstage. We see Triple H. He's getting his wrist taped while Vince is trying to hint to Commissioner William Regal that he should prevent this match between Stephanie and Trish Stratus. Then we go to the WWF New York. Test is on stage here, and he's asked for a prediction for the match between his ex-fiance and his former manager. And Test says he's looking forward to seeing both women beat the hell out of each other.
Yeah.
To determine who was the biggest trash bag hoe.
Oh.
Back in the arena, William Regal is trying to stop Trish from going to the ring, but of course he has no luck, and that means it's going to happen. Stephanie pins Trish in 8 minutes and 30 seconds. Meltzer would say this match was a miracle. Vince set it up to Regal, saying, "You know what to do," but Regal had no clue what that meant. So they do the, Meltzer would say they do the requisite stuff with Trish's shorts being pulled off, showing her thong panties. No shirts were pulled off. But eventually there is a pinfall. Regal gives a neck breaker and leaves, allows Shane or Stephanie to get the pin. And after the match, Vince says he wants a tag match with he and Trish against Regal and Stephanie. 2.25 stars. Listen, there's lots of maybe not ha-ha, but gaga here. Does this belong on a pay-per-view? I mean, this is more storyline than competition. Let's say,
of course, yes, it belongs on a pay-per-view, without a doubt. Everything can't be blood and guts. Everything's needs to have a little bit different tone and tenor. This is an attraction match. Anything you thought it was going to be anything else would be naive. Because Stephanie had not had that much training, experience, wrestling. Stephanie's one of the best heels we had during the Attitude Era. I've often said her dad was the best heel we had, and I still believe that. And I'll believe that to my dying day. Because the old man helped make Stone Cold, and Stone Cold helped put this company on his shoulders and led it to being a publicly traded company. We see the results of that right now.
Right.
Simple math. Just go back and do the history. Because I'm sure somebody's going to say, well, I thought so. Good. I'm not going to argue your opinion. See, unlike a lot of people online, Conrad, I care about your opinion, but I'm not going to argue that you have a different opinion than me. To me, that kills any basic fundamental reasoning for debate or discussion. But I thought the match, look, Meltzer gave it 2.25 stars. If you'd asked me before the match, knowing Meltzer's grading curve, I'd have said there's no way in hell it's going to do 2.25 stars. I look back at that scenario and say it was a tribute to the work ethic and whoever the agent was to put the damn thing together. And the fact that the women did not want to go out and embarrass themselves. They wanted to go out and have a good match. But it was an attraction match. So, but I had no problem with being on pay-per-view whatsoever. I mean, you got two very sexy, athletic women, good shape, look good. You had a nice little story surrounding it to kind of hide some of their deficiencies, getting Regal involved, and now Vince wants a piece of the action. It was leading to something. So I thought it belonged on the pay-per-view and about the spot that it was in.
Let's get to a commercial for WrestleMania 17, and then we see a furious Vince McMahon scold William Regal backstage, and he books the two of them in this tag match. As we said, it's going to be on Raw, Vince and Trish against Regal and Steph. Then we get a little package to promote how we got here for Triple H and Stone Cold Steve Austin. And Michael Cole then asks Austin if he's ready to enter hell. And Austin just looks at him and walks away. This is a 2 out of 3 falls match. The feud began back as being a 2 out of 3 falls match on February 5th. The first fall is a singles match. The second fall is a street fight. And the third fall is a steel cage match. And then Vince institutes a 0 tolerance policy between the two, saying if anyone attacks each other before No Way Out, Austin's suspended and he'll lose his WrestleMania match, and Triple H will be suspended for 6 months. So, of course, we're off to the races here. They get plenty of time, especially in this era. 39 minutes, 27 seconds. Before the bell even rings, you say, this is going to be a match of the year candidate. And Meltzer would say that put a lot of pressure on the guys, but they really did deliver.
Well, they didn't hear me, Conrad. They were in the ring and I was on the headset. So I don't know how much pressure it put on the guys, quite frankly. But you just had to figure that all those guys booked that match.
Yeah.
Austin and Triple H picked their own poison. Knowing that they had a hand in booking their match, you knew that they were going to give you extra effort because they wanted their creation to be successful and be a, match of the night scenario type thing. So that's why I said it could be a match of the year, because it had 3 distinctly different approaches, and the stipulations were different. And I thought that was pretty cool. So, I like I like that it was unique. I like the 3-way match, quite frankly, or the 3 stipulations, because again, the talents that were involved in it had an emotional investment because they helped create the scenario and create the booking of the match. I just didn't see 2 guys with strong personalities that had major WrestleMania main event level aspirations on a daily basis failing in this one. I just thought it was going to be really special, and I thought it was a good match.
Well, how about this? Meltzer loved it. He says Triple H in particular put on a world-class performance on par with any great heel in their best match in the United States. They pull out all the stops here too. The street fight shows two suplexes on the ramp. They're brawling in the stands. Austin's nailing a bunch of chair shots to the back and then a ton to Triple H's knee. He even brings out a 2x4 wrapped in barbed wire. I mean, some crazy stuff here. I can't recommend this one enough, man. If you're going to watch one match from this show, I think this is it. 4 3/4 stars. Meltzer would say, for all the reasons Austin got over as a face, Triple H should as well. It's funny as hell that Triple H used to complain about The Rock showing his ass whenever Rock played heel because he was trying to stay cool as a heel instead of get the face over as the face. But when put in the same situation, Triple H plays the same game. But he put on another great performance here. 4 3/4 stars. What'd you think watching this one back? It's a long match, nearly 40 minutes, but dude,
it's awesome.
Time. Yeah.
Yeah. I agree, Conrad. It's awesome. And for 2 fans like you and I are, and been lifelong fans, for a match like that to stand out still to this very day, all these years later, I think tells us all we need to know. They were given that much time because they lobbied for it. They convinced Vince that they needed it. He agreed with them. Good decision. And when they came up with the different stipulations, he relied on their instincts to go along with it. So I really thought the presentation was excellent. It's 4 3/4 stars that early in the show is badass.
Oh, unbelievable.
And the only problem you have is whoever follows it's going to have a hard time following that. And they did.
And they did. Steven Richards pins Jerry Lawler 5.5 minutes. The steps were if Lawler won, Cat would strip, and if Richards won, Cat would have to join RTC. Since they had no little N on the screen as a parental warning before the show, you pretty well know that Richards is winning. Lawler did a pretty good job of old school psychology. Ivory twice tried to hit Lawler with her belt behind the referee's back, but Lawler gets away. Cat got the belt and tries to hit Richards, but instead hits Lawler. Womp, womp, womp. Who's pinned? RTC then comes out and puts Cat in a burlap sack and takes her away. He would write, it would be the wrong call to call this a good match, but it held up after that classic far better than one would have thought.
Yeah.
1.5 stars. And ultimately, it's this whole cat in the RTC storyline that is the death knell for her WWE run, right?
Yeah, pretty much. Maybe she wasn't crazy about the entire presentation of it. I don't know. And, but yeah, that was a catalyst for the beginning of the end for Stacy, unfortunately.
Next up, we see the Dudleys win a 3-way over Edge and Christian and Undertaker and Kane to keep the titles in 12:06. It's a tables match. And Meltzer would say most of the match was Undertaker and Kane playing Superman. A few near table spots. Rikishi and Haku came out to brawl with Undertaker and Kane as they had Edge and Christian set up to take a double table breaking powerbomb spot. With them brawling in the rampway inside the ring, Edge went to spear Bubba, but hit the table, which didn't break, which caused a groan from the crowd. So the Dudleys gave Christian a 3D through the table for the win. I think when you see this on paper, an ECW tag team, a couple of WWF favorites, and 2 WWF icons, you just assume the Dudleys are not coming out victorious, but they found a way here. They're one of my favorites. I'm glad to see it. 2 stars. Nice little storytelling. It's, probably not the original plan with the 3D, but it's a hell of an audible after you don't break the table spot the first time.
Yeah, good audible. Yeah, Bubba and Devon always delivered. They may not have always liked the payoff. They may not have always liked the creative, but when they were assigned a task and the play was called by the head coach, i.e. Vince McMahon, they ran the play and they ran it as well as they could. So, and then look at this card. I mean, this match here, you talk about star-studded. We revert back to the 4-way with Jericho and company. Here's 6 guys that are Hall of Fame guys.
Right.
And I thought they delivered really well. 2 stars. I'd probably give a little bit more than that, but I'm partial. But it was a good outing for everybody. And the Dudleys calling up that audible, which I assume was probably Bubba's call, was the right thing to do.
Hey, according to a new analysis from Redfin based on MLS data, the gap between home listings and sales prices is widening. Now, what that means to you is if you're considering purchasing a home and you've heard over the last 5 years that it's a seller's market with bidding wars driving up the prices and no seller concessions, well, that's now officially a thing of the past. Home prices are off their highs, and many sellers may now accept lower offers. They may even be willing to pay or contribute to your closing costs as well. So if you've been throwing your money away, paying for someone else's mortgage with your rent, now is not a bad time to explore purchasing a home of your own. Someone we helped just do exactly that is Jacob. He's a technician from Bulls Gap, Tennessee. He came to SaveWithConrad.com. He worked with us every step of the way. And now he's a proud homeowner of his very first home of his own. And we'd love to help you do just exactly what Jacob did. If you're looking to buy your first home, go right now to SaveWithConrad.com and let a member of our team run the numbers for you, get you pre-approved. There's no cost, there's no obligation. And if we can't help you save some cash today, we'll get you on a path to get you there. You see, at SaveWithConrad.com, we don't say no, we say not yet, but here's how. Go right now to SaveWithConrad.com. Let's get you out of that rental situation. Tell your landlord that, like John Cena, you can't see him anymore. It's a toxic relationship. You're building wealth for your family with a little help from my family at SaveWithConrad.com. NMLS number 2129, equal housing lender, SaveWithConrad.com.
Well, here we are. It's time for the world title. It's Kurt Angle defending against the man he beat for the title, The Rock. As a reminder, at No Mercy, Angle beat Rock for the belt. At Armageddon, Angle would pin The Rock to retain the title in the Hell in a Cell match that had, well, everybody else. On January 1st, The Rock would lose a number 1 contenders match to Kane by countout because Angle interfered. And a few days later on SmackDown, he would lose a non-title match to Angle by DQ because he was attacking Angle with a steel chair. And then on the February 8th SmackDown, The Rock beat Big Show to become the number 1 contender. And here we are. The Rock is going to regain the world title for a record-breaking 6th time. At this point, the only 2 guys to hold it 5 times were Hulk Hogan and Bret Hart. So that's a pretty big deal here for him to pass those guys. He pins Kurt Angle in 16 minutes and 54 seconds. Taz is going to be doing commentary here with you, and he did after the 4th match. So once Lawler has his match, It's just you guys.
Yeah, that's why Taz came in. Lawler had his match and all that stuff. I couldn't remember the exact setup for that thing. But that gave, I think Taz was on SmackDown at that time, obviously.
Right. Yep.
So it gave SmackDown some love, and I enjoyed working with Taz. Always did, but nonetheless, he said we probably both tried too hard to protect Angle. I think it might have been more obvious than we should have been. That's hindsight's 2020. The thing I revert back to the beginning of the show, the pay-per-view, where Angle gets out of the limo, right, and he says he's not worried.
Yeah.
Wrong psychology. Why would you do that?
Yeah.
Why wouldn't he put the edge where you see pressure? There's pressure on the champion. He realizes he's up against perhaps on this night an unbeatable guy.
Right.
And it would add a lot more drama to the match and the build up, and it give us a little something to hang our hat on throughout the show when promoting the main event. I just thought it was the wrong psychology. The arrogant heel. I got this, we're good. Just didn't think it was the right thing to do psychologically. But I really enjoyed the match. Enjoyed working with Taz. Enjoyed working with the Lawler until he had his match. But it was different. You go from the Memphian to a New York guy, which only means they sound different. Doesn't mean that one's better than the other, just they sound different. So there's a little adjustment made there, timing wise and so forth. But Taz as a veteran he figured out how to get in that same rhythm. So there we had it. We called that last match together, and I thought did a decent job, quite frankly. But I would have been the other psychology. I'd have had the champion going in worried that he's in there with this phenom. He's already been the champion 5 times.
Right.
How do you dismiss that? Psychologically, how would you even think about dismissing it? So that would be my only critique of that going into the match. But I thought those guys had a hell of an outing.
They do have a hell of an outing. And in an attempt to ruin a great match, Big Show comes out and chokeslams the referee Mike Chioda, as well as The Rock and Kurt Angle, and then walks off. So Angle has Rock pinned here. Tim White and Earl Hebner are trying to help Chioda off. Hebner's carrying Chioda off, sees a pin attempt, runs in the ring. That causes Chioda to fall down, which is kind of fun. They continue with a bunch of near falls. Eventually, Angle kicks out of the people's elbow. Angle undoes the padding on the turnbuckle and rams the Rock into it, then hits the Olympic slam, but it's a near fall. He misses a charge, hits the exposed metal buckle, and Rock gives him a rock bottom for a near fall. And Meltzer would say Angle never really kicked out, but the ref held up the count, which was kind of weird, but they announced he kicked out. Something was majorly screwed up here. Apparently Hebner not realizing that was the finish. Rock went right back for the rock bottom for a second time, and this time it was the pin. 4 1/4 stars. Pretty rare snafu here by Hebner. It feels like Hebner was the golden boy, but this one.
Well, he might not have got the finish because that wasn't his match. Somebody, I'm not blaming Hebner.
Right.
Hebner's only going to work by what information he's provided, because Baby Earl was a really good referee. But to me, it made it look more real.
Oh yeah.
I wish the pause and all that stuff, but I don't think if Angle's going to kick out of a rock bottom, he's already kicked out of one, right?
Yep.
Earlier in the match. So it takes 2 to beat him. Big deal. I don't like that philosophy, but I understand it. But I thought that those guys really kicked ass, and at the end of the night, Rock was made whole. Angle had a hell of an outing. Great, really good match. He was a very reputable, reliable, and respected champion. It gave Rock a really good win leading into WrestleMania 17 against his arch rival Stone Cold in their second match ever on top at WrestleMania.
It's a big deal. The stage is set now for the biggest WrestleMania in history, WrestleMania 17. We're going to cover it next month. As we mentioned, just 2 days after this is the SmackDown taping where the cat is fired and Jerry Lawler quits in protest. And very quickly, the plans are put into motion to have Paul Heyman make his WWF debut with you the following Raw. So you're going to do one more Raw with Lawler, and that's it, man. This has got to be sort of bittersweet for you to look back at what a great time it was in the company and what a big WrestleMania it was. And one of your very best friends you ever had wasn't by your side for it. That's got to be a little weird.
Yeah, the friendship was certainly well described. We were great friends, but we were even better broadcast partners.
Yeah.
I knew where he was what he was thinking more often than not. Unfortunately for him, he knew what I was thinking more often than not. And it was just you worry about creating the same dynamic or a maybe a different dynamic, but an equally as effective dynamic with a new partner. We had no time to vet who was going to be Lawler's replacement, because it's going to have to be somebody that was very talented and could stir the shit. And that's the way that Paul Heyman's been described a lot of times in his life. Very talented and with an innate ability to stir the shit. And so I knew from working with Paul in Atlanta and he was very, very green then. I mean, he would piss me off in the air sometimes just because of saying something really, really stupid and counterproductive. And that was more to get himself over. However, as the journey continued for him, he became much more proficient in getting the talent over than constantly worrying about getting himself over. I remember one time from the very beginning of that relationship, he said before show, "Hey, I'm going to say this, and then that sets you up to say this, and here's my punchline." I said, "What?" I said, "Paul, I don't work that way. I ain't going to remember fucking lines so you can get a punchline in to nail me or somebody else. Create your own end. Create your own narrative there. And then it's organic and it's real and it's going to mean more. I ain't doing these lines things. You say this, I'll say this, and I'll get, no, I ain't doing it." And he'd get real pissed off. I said, I'm not, how clear do I have to be? I am not fucking doing it, Paul. Listen to what I say and take what I say, because I am the anchor, for better or for worse. There's got to be a progression here and some sort of a broadcasting verbal symmetry that we have to address. So all I'm telling you is that you'll get your lines in, you'll get all the stuff that you ever wanted to say in, but we're going to do it in an organic and a real fashion, not because it's predetermined. And so he got it, and we never did those lines ever. We never even discussed it ever again. One time. So, but we were lucky to have him there. But I just always felt bad about that, because I think that Stacy got a little bit too big for her britches, apparently, in the eyes of some. I never had a problem with her ever. But apparently, and the writers never came to me in advance and said, "Hey, JR, could you have a chat with Stacy?" I said, "I sure can. What's the problem?" And I'd have found out, I'd addressed it. Nothing. We went from 0 to 60 like that. And all of a sudden, she, whatever transgression she said allegedly had are enough to get her fired. So all of a sudden, as the head of talent relations, I didn't even have a chance to save her or to correct it or fix it or anything. So I didn't like how that all went down. But I was a little shocked that Jerry was going to voluntarily take himself out of the equation. Not the fact that he wasn't, didn't love his wife and all those things. I just didn't think he would leave his job, because this thing could have been rectified, especially much easier and better if he had stayed on the job, and we could have addressed it going forward when the heat went down, Conrad. Right. When it's a different, more negotiable, palatable atmosphere, which basically centers around Caesar.
Well, next week we're going to have a topic that doesn't center around Caesar. But before we do, when we talk about what we got coming up, let's put a bow on No Way Out 2001, Jim. Thumbs up, thumbs down, thumbs in the middle.
Oh, I like the show.
I do too. It
wasn't overbooked. You notice we didn't have that many matches.
Yep.
You had plenty of match time, quality minutes. I thought was good. There's a couple of little let-me-ups there. The Lawler thing with the RTC and Stevie Richards was kind of a let-me-up, kind of an attraction-like match. Certainly the Steph and Trish match was an attraction level match that I thought they did well. Meltzer made a comment about, Lawler and Stevie Richards following, Austin and Triple H, because we wanted to make sure we had that Austin Triple H match far enough away from Angle and Rock that they didn't overlap. So in other words, in the old school way of doing it, you would have had the next to last match would have been Austin and Triple H. Then following that would have been Rock and Kurt. That was changed. That was not a good TV presentation to do it that way. You needed highlight, feature, and restart. So you get in the middle of the card with this 3-fall match, and then you restart. And you restarted with Lawler and he's texting me again. I'm kidding. He started with restarted the show with just almost over again with Jerry and Stevie Richards. So I liked the show a lot. I thought it was well booked. I thought the matches that needed time got it. And I thought the guys wore their working boots that night and did a good job. And I think that Meltzer's ratings for what people believe yay or nay in those, I think they're always pretty close, was indicative that he, as an expert and watching it, was pretty close to on the money there. So good show. I thought it was a good show.
It is a good show. And don't forget, later tonight, you're going to get a hell of a show on adfreeshows.com. JR is going to be taking your questions. It's tonight, February 25th, over at adfreeshows.com. Next week, we're going to be back talking all things Rick Steiner. We'll be back on March 11th, covering WrestleMania 20. Excuse me, on WrestleMania 18th, it'll be Ask JR Anything. The greatest WrestleMania ever was WrestleMania X7, and it's coming your way on the 25th of March. We've also got some really cool bonus stuff coming your way on Ad Free Shows in both March and April that I don't want to spoil, but let me just say I am wringing my hands about. JR is going to be doing something kind of fun. April 1st, we're going to cover Mankind's 96-97. April 8th, we'll hit WrestleMania 27. On April 15th, it's tax day, so we're going to talk about Mike Rotunda. April 22nd, it'll be about John Cena's 2006. And we'll wrap up the month of April with Backlash 2001. Lots of fun stuff coming your way in both March and April. But right now, we need to remind everybody that whether it's March, it's April, or it's still February, it's still grilling season over at jrsbbq.com.
No doubt about it, man. I actually used my grill when I was in Oklahoma a couple of weeks ago, and it was colder than hell. But I did it very simply. I wore a coat, and I cooked a couple of steaks. I learned that I cook more than one thing. I can get them cooked all nice, everything's cool, grill them, then take them back in the house, and I got something for today and tomorrow, or just today if I travel down the chocolate cake road very much. It's not healthy. But anyway, yeah, it's always grilling season. I'm trying to eat healthier. I'm trying to watch all my measurables and my health. And I've been really dealing with that a lot here lately. So I want to eat healthier. And so I find that grilling is a way to helps accomplish that. So, we got a really unique brand of products. When we first started jrsbbq.com, I thought, well, we'll sell some barbecue sauce here and there. And these other products are just kind of vanity products. I like them personally. I like developing them with Jan. I thought it was part of our love and fun together. And so all of a sudden now the mustard and the ketchup and the seasoning and all that stuff's kind of created its own identity. So we got all kinds of deals. We have different promotions every week. We pride ourselves on our customer service. And any of you that have bought things digitally, you know that it can be dicey. People don't return calls, they don't return emails, or whatever the case may be. So I'm very proud of our efforts to build our brand in that spirit. So the original barbecue sauce still the number one seller, but boy, the hot barbecue sauce is right in there fighting, and the ketchup, the chipotle ketchup. Somebody I suggested here on the show that I warm up a little REMIX and a little bowl of coffee cup size or half a cup of the chipotle ketchup and use it for steak sauce. Because when I lived in New York or lived in Connecticut, the Peter Luger steak sauce is always one of my favorites. And it has some of those properties, a little more thickness, rich. And then the mustard, I really believe, Conrad, I eat this mustard every day.
Wow.
I mean, there's something. Whether I use it on salmon or I use it on sandwiches or burgers. I got this little grill where I get the munchies for hot dogs. And so I have this little thing that sits on the top of the stove that has these ridges on it to create grill marks. And I'll have hot dogs. And sometimes I have open face hot dogs where I'm not eating so much bread, but I never do without the mustard. So it's a fun thing. And I know you're a big fan of the all-purpose seasoning.
Oh, yeah.
Works like a champion. It's universal. It works on a lot of things. So we just appreciate everybody's checking it out. You know, like I said here, it doesn't cost nothing to look. And if we can help you, let us help you. Try something and see if you like it. And then let's move forward and let us become something that you see in your refrigerator, on your pantry shelf or whatever on a regular basis. We appreciate that very much. So jrsbbq.com. I get a lot of questions about why we don't sell in England. You know, we got beef jerky's hard to get exported out of the country. There's a lot of of course, the COVID. You should understand that the COVID has restricted so many things. Same thing in Canada. You know, if I had a distributor, a company in Canada that did this for a living, we could wholesale them product and off they would go. But it's just easier said than done. And the COVID issues have slowed everything down so drastically. It's just hard to grow a food line product that is shipped out of the continental United States, in essence, very successfully. So hopefully someday all that stuff will change and we'll see what happens. But in any event, that's where we are, buddy. Business is good. And, you know, for you and me to say it's grilling season is kind of like a no-brainer. Of course it is.
It's year round.
Yeah, it's year round, man. So, and it's healthier eating, quite frankly, healthier eating. You're not using grease. You're not, my dad, one of the reasons we did a lot of smoking when I was a kid, we didn't have any air conditioning. We lived in a 4-room concrete block house. It was a converted milk barn. Seriously. Sounded like a Toby Keith song. But so we would grill or smoke, not grill, smoke, different deal. And that would be little Chubby Jimbo's job to keep that temperature at the right spot by adding wood when necessary. So anyway, those all bring back great memories. But anyway, jrsbbq.com. We appreciate you just simply going and looking. And thanks, Conrad, for bringing it up.
Absolutely. And we hope you pick up your all-purpose seasoning, some of that Main Event mustard, some of the Chipotle ketchup, and of course, under the black hat, it's all at jrsbbq.com. We'll be back next week with Rick Steiner right here on Grillin' JR with the voice of wrestling, Mr. Jim Ross.
Have you on the mister, ladies and gentlemen. Have a great day. And give somebody a hug today that wasn't expecting it. Including, if you see Conrad in Huntsville, just go hug the hell out of him.
Hey, it's Conrad Thompson here to tell you a little more about what adfreeshows.com is all about. Get early, ad-free access to more than a dozen of your favorite wrestling podcasts every single week, starting at just $9. That's less than 20 cents an episode each month. And yes, you can listen to them all directly through Apple Podcasts or your regular podcast apps. How easy is that? Ad-free shows also has thousands of hours worth of bonus content and docuseries like Title Chase, Eric Fires Back, Conversations with Conrad, and The Insiders. Plus new series like The Book with David Crockett, Monday Mailbags with Mike Chioda and Nick Patrick, and a whole lot more. And you want to talk about early? You can't get any earlier than listening to the shows live. You can be a part of the live studio audience as we record the podcast. Plus, ride shotgun alongside your favorite childhood heroes for live watch-alongs, Q&As, and other interactive experiences every single month. Come on now, see for yourself what thousands of other wrestling fans from around the world have discovered, that adfreeshows.com is the best value in wrestling. Check it out today, and hey, when you do, the first week is completely free. adfreeshows.com.